On this episode of Game Shack, I invested into the Wonderland Amusements Alice Goes to Wonderland pinball game, but will I back out? Some new information just came out today. Let's talk a little bit about Atari versus Arcade 1-Up and what that means for that company. And should AtGames be afraid of that Alice Goes to Wonderland pinball game? Let's talk all about it coming up next. Hey everybody, welcome all back into the Game Shack. I am your host, JDV for Evil Genius Entertainment. Thanks for stopping by, it really does mean a lot to us. As always, you guys are the primary sponsors of this type of content on this channel. So if you like to see home arcade videos keep on coming, give me that thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, hit the notification bell if you have. All right, let's kick it off by talking about Wonderland Amusements Alice Goes to Wonderland Pinball. Of course, everyone knows by now that they already have 550-ish, maybe more than that. I haven't checked today. Initial investors, they met their goal within, 10 minutes of them going live on Kickstarter. So far, so good for that company. Now, there's been a lot of people talking about the game, worried about whether or not this game's actually going to come out and everything like that. So I guess enough people talked about it that Wonderland Amusements put out an email today to all the Kickstarter backers saying that if you haven't gotten your pinball game by April 10th, or at least if they haven't shipped it by then, like giving you a tracking number, then you can request a full refund. In other words, your money is back 100% either way. Now, for me, that didn't actually inspire a lot of confidence in me, and I'll tell you why. That's because telling us that, hey, you're for sure going to get it by April 10th, 2026, doesn't exactly fill you with confidence that you're going to be getting it in the fourth quarter. And of course, that's what they've been saying all along, right? Now, on one hand, they've been hitting every sort of goalposts that they set, and they've done it pretty close to the time frame they said they were going to hit it in. And very linear, very logical, very, hey, good job for you guys type of fashion. So I'm not saying that they won't deliver in the fourth quarter. I'm just saying that a statement like this maybe doesn't do what they hoped it would do. In other words, it's telling me that they think, whoa, April 10th, 2026 is, a possibility in terms of when they're going to ship this thing out. And for me, no, if I'm waiting that long, I would rather just wait on the sideline and see whether or not this thing's going to go into box stores or not, because we are talking realistically about, 13 months from now if they hit that very latest date. And that's too much time to invest that amount of money not to already have it in your hot little hands. While I might be willing to wait till December, mid-December, I'm not willing to wait till mid-April. We haven't seen any more game footage from it, and I really want to see an entire game played on this game, all 3 balls, 5 balls, whatever it is. I want to see multiple games played. I want to see video of that before I commit, even more so now that they've given this guarantee of an April 10th, 2026 delivery, because I don't want it in April 2026. I want it in November or December of 2025. Okay, so there might be a little bit of growing pains over at Wonderland, although I think so far they've doing a decent job. Again, we got to see that video footage, but assuming that the game is just decent, that it's an average playing pinball game, it has basic, reliability, and it gets out by December, is it something that AtGames for KP should be worried about? And I would say, yeah, I think AtGames should be worried about it, and primarily because of pricing. It does seem like they're going to be able to deliver this pinball, whatever you think of it, for $1,000. And right now, to get into a 4KP, realistically, you're going to be spending $1,500. And if you get any kind of bells and whistles or a lot of games, you're going to be sitting right around $2,000. So almost double what the Alice Goes to Wonderland game costs, and potentially much more than double. So if you're just sort of an average Joe wanting to add a pinball of any sort to your home arcade, man cave, your home bar, you're going to look at these two products side to side, and you're going to see that they are almost identical in terms of the size and shape that they're going to take up in your house. But the playfield is going to be much bigger on that Alice Goes to Wonderland. It's real, and it's $1,000 cheaper than getting a fully loaded 4KP. that is something that I think a lot of people are going to be drawn to, particularly once reviews start dropping, and if those reviews are positive, and if there's no real reliability problems within the first 6 months or year of owning that Alice Goes to Wonderland. I think that could be a long-term threat to the potentiality of success for that 4KP. I would think that Alice Goes to Wonderland pinball game, it would be very attractive. I'm going to have a video coming out soon where I give some suggestions to AtGames to what they can do to maybe have something more as a direct competitor to that Alice Goes to Wonderland, so stick around for that. Okay, so anybody who's a kind of a hardcore enthusiast probably has seen James Hates Everything video on Atari versus Arcade 1-Up, and if you haven't, I'd encourage you to go look at that. James does a great job of breaking down all the X, Y's, and Z's of what's happening, and even the staunchest defenders of Arcade 1-Up now can no longer defend the fact that they have lost a lot of licenses since their sort of peak maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when they still had Sega, and when they still had Atari, Disney, and when they still had the Capcom games, which apparently they might have lost too. And it also might have happened that they lose exclusivity on their Namco titles. Pac-Man, which has been the backbone of everything that they have done in this niche, has been Pac-Man. No Pac-Man, no Terminator, no Dragon's Lair, no Tron. None of those games ever come out because it's Pac-Man that really sold all those units. So if they've lost the exclusivity or lost the license in total to Pac-Man and also to Street Fighter, those are pretty huge losses that the company is going to be much more challenged by than, say, losing the license to Atari. So if Arcade 1-Up has lost the Atari license, that's bad, but realistically you can get almost all of those games stock right on the ALU, and you can buy all the Activision games that you care about for the 2600 on the ALU, and I think you're going to be able to buy it for like 20 bucks at that spring sale. 20 bucks, 25, something like that. It's a great deal, all those Activision games. So all that said, this is bad news for Arcade 1-Up, right? I mean, there's been nothing but bad news from Arcade 1-Up, essentially since Time Crisis was released over a year ago now. It's been a year and a half, I think, since they actually announced any new titles, and that would have been that Time Crisis game, Fast and Furious in there too. You know, anybody wanting or hoping for new titles from Arcade 1-Up are probably going to be sorely disappointed, and or they might be titles that you don't care about, like Data East titles or some other license that they managed to get but doesn't really rock the boat. But of course, heck, I think a lot of us would take some Data East type games from Arcade 1-Up. Anything new, anything other than Golden Tee, which is a license that they apparently still have. The Golden Tee is not going to be enough to feed the Bulldog, nor is a very small screen version of Big Buck Hunter. So I think all in all, what you're seeing right now is a segment of the market that is in flux. We have AtGames, who is sort of king of the hill right now, but they're sitting on a product that costs a lot of money, and we haven't seen any new skins for in a while. And while it's very cool to get some Medieval Madness and some of the other Williams games that we're going to see here in a little bit, I don't think that's going to be enough for people to actually go and buy a $1,500 to $2,000 table. On the other hand, you have this Alice Goes to Wonderland pinball table, but there's still a lot of questions to be answered. Even for someone like me, who's kind of a super fan of pinball and has a million other little pinball games, I still got to see some play before I actually am going to hit finalize on that payment. But hopefully we do get to see it. Anyway, there is a battle brewing between those companies, in my opinion, between those two machines. And Arcade 1-Up, you know, best of luck to you guys, but it looks like really and truly all these predictions of doom and gloom are going to be happening, because how can they stay in business if they're getting sued by Atari? How can they stay in business if they lose exclusivity to Pac-Man and some of these other titles? All right, if you dig this kind of content, give me a thumbs up. It really does help the channel out. Please subscribe if you haven't already. That helps a lot too, so please subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you know when cool videos like this drop. Also, we're going to be expanding the content on this channel. We are going to start doing some of those Cinescares where we talk about how to make horror movies and movie reviews and things like that. Also, we're going to do more arcade reviews here, X-Arcade, Glenn's, all that stuff is coming later on this month too. All right, love each other, and until next time, I'll see you in the Game Shack. Mwah!
Be sure to visit evilgeniusentertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much, much more.